Hi guys! Today we have the Marshall DSL1 against the Marshall Silver Jubilee Mini 2525H. Let's go! So, I wrote two different songs, one more rock, heavy rock, one more of kinda metal, to compare how these two heads do in these two different genres. We're gonna hear them in the mix with drum and bass, and we're gonna hear them isolated, only the guitars. And I'm gonna switch from A to B. I try to keep it as fair as possible, trying to create the sounds, but also keep them at around the same level. The signal path is from the head, I go into the attenuator, from the attenuator I enter into the audio interface, and then I use the York Audio Marshall 4x12 IRs. So let's hear them and we'll go to the conclusion. So I like these two both for different scenarios. I try to keep the comparison as fair as possible, but I have to do some compromises because these two heads work in a different way and have different settings at the same volume. If you keep the gain on the DSL1 at 12 o'clock like I did, you will get a much more crunch tone than if you do the same in the Jubilee, because the Jubilee, first of all, it's a different head. Second, it has separated master and input gain. So if you crank the input gain, you get a lot more bass than what you get on the classic gain channel in the DSL, unless you crank it up, because you're cranking the input and the output at the same time. I have to raise the gain on the Jubilee for the drive channel, because on the drive channel, the everything at noon, on the DSL, it has a lot more punch, a lot more bass. You have to crank a little bit more the input gain on the Silver Jubilee to get the same, otherwise you have to work with the EQ, but I'll try to keep the EQ as flat as possible, just because I wanted to give you the idea on how they sound right out of the box, because especially the Jubilee has a very active EQ, so you can tweak it a lot, you can tweak it and you can shape the sound of the head, while on the DSL1 it's much more subtle. If you cut or if you boost, it doesn't make a world of difference, the head sounds approximately the same. The Jubilee is a lot more versatile, but you need to tweak it a little bit more. If you want a much simpler amp, I think the DSL range is much more easy to use, just because on this DSL1 you only have for the classic gain channel, you only have one knob, so you decide where you want to stay and you stay there. Of course, on live setting this could be an issue, because if you want to play at a certain volume but you don't want that much gain, so you want to have maximum volume but as less distortion as possible, you can do that with this one. You have to step up to the DSL20 to do that, because from the DSL20 upwards you have to separate master and gain for both channels. So there are two different amps. The DSL has more gain, and without boosting you still have a lot of gain. The fact is that after 12 o'clock, from the gain on the ultra gain channel, it starts to get a little muddy, so I try to keep it 12 o'clock, maybe 1, and then just boost it with a tube screamer, because that's the sweet spot. And also on the Jubilee, if I want to get much more crunchy tone, instead of driving it all the way up, it's better to leave it where it is and just boost it a bit with a tube screamer, and you get that tightness, which is really good. So let me know in the comments, guys, what you think about this comparison. Which one did you prefer? Do you think I made a mistake buying the Jubilee? Let me know. See you in the next video, guys. See ya!